Right. Because I've been married and I lost myself. And so that's the training ground. I was like, I lost
Oh.
myself.
Oh, yeah, that's right, that's right, you were married before.
Yes.
So this relationship that you're talking about was after you had had some experience.
Right. He's like, oh no, wait, this smells this smells the same. That's why it was not like they ain't gonna take a whole bunch of these to get for me to get it. Cause I was like, oh no, I know what this smells like. It is stank. And I'm not
Welcome to Real Talks with an Entrepreneur's Wife's podcast, where we help women feel seen, heard, and understood by sharing our stories. My name is Janelle, and I am your sister, your host on this journey of being in a relationship with an entrepreneur. I'm excited today because I have a special guest with me, and she's going to share a little bit about her story of being in a relationship with an entrepreneur. This guest, this woman, she has experienced a lot, she has seen a lot, she has accomplished a lot. But one of the things that I wanted to specifically mention is the fact that she has over 30 years of leadership in education and corporate, and she has referred to herself as a serial entrepreneur. She's going to talk a little bit about her journey, and she's going to share some things about her healing journey. Through everything that she's done, she exudes hope. Today, I introduce to you our sister, our friend, Dr. Staci Smith. Hey, Dr. Staci, how are you today?
hello, Janelle. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me be your guest today.
Well, thank you for being here. One of the things I like to establish from the beginning of talking to my guests is, are you currently in a relationship with an entrepreneur, or is this a past situation that we're going to talk about today?
This is a past situation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this, first off, you mentioned or you shared with me that you call yourself a serial entrepreneur. What exactly does that mean?
I had the bug, the notion. Actually, I got out of college, worked for a bank, and heard about it was Primerica then. Now it's something else. Or maybe it was the other way around, selling insurance.
Okay.
And so that was like one of the big ones that people learned. Took the test to get the insurance license and wanting to have another stream of income, be my own boss, have my own way of making money outside of the 9 to 5 corporate world. And so that was decades ago, many decades, 4 decades ago, just to be
Okay.
transparent. And I always talk about my age because I just think I still don't believe I'm the age that I am.
Listen, you don't look it either. And so this whole thing about exuding hope, like you absolutely do. And yeah, when I first met you in person, I was like, the videos and the pictures, it doesn't even do you any justice because you're just so beautiful and your smile. But
Oh,
anyway, we're gonna get back on the topic. So you mentioned Primerica. Was there any other businesses that you did? You
there were
did
many.
multiple.
I did many, yes. After
Okay.
America, I think it was a while before I got back into it, but I've sold everything from vitamins. I do Mary Kay. I was in Rodan and Fields for a while. That was probably the most recent one. Just the idea. Oh, there was one I was trying to sell electricity when there was a divestiture where you could buy electricity for your home through
Okay.
subsidiary companies. And any of the conferences that I went to, the energy in those spaces
Right.
was just everybody was like, "Yes, we're gonna do this. We're gonna take over the world. We're gonna be millionaires. Our children will have generational wealth." And I was like, "Yes, sign me up. Yes." And to the point where, and I'll say, here's the serial entrepreneur part for the other people in my life. They're like, "Oh no, here she comes again. What's she doing now?" Go ahead and laugh because
Yes. Yes.
that's what it feels like. But there's this vision, and it is a hope. It's like a childlike hope that
Yes.
this is gonna be the thing
Right.
that makes my opportunities for my family to build our own and to residual income. Like they sell it by time freedom, money freedom, and make money while you sleep. And I was like, yes, yes, and
Sign
yes.
me up. That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I remember the first time for me when I was introduced to a network marketing. A
Hmm.
lot of people call it MLMs for
Yes.
short. The first one I was introduced to was in the area of
Yeah.
nutrition. And like you said, we're going to change the world. And for me, it was right down my avenue because I'm a nurse. And
Right.
so, of course, my desire is to help people get well and to help people stay well and to help them to not get ill.
Yes.
So, I was excited about that opportunity and it didn't last long. Well, I won't say it didn't last long. What did not last long for me is me promoting and trying to sell it because it just wasn't given. But also, I guess too, there were a couple things. My personality, I felt like wasn't fitting quite
Mm.
yet. But also there was that conflict in my mind, being a nurse and not knowing all the things and how it might interact with people's
The
medications
efficacy.
and all that stuff. So I had some apprehension about it.
Yeah.
But still to this day, I believe in the product. I still take the products. And it has been over 15 years now.
Okay.
We still take that product in our house. My husband takes it, I take it, my kids take it,
Okay.
but it did not give the type of results as far as like the financial part that I was looking for. So I veered back
Yeah.
to what I knew as far as that 9 to 5. But yeah, so I totally get it. And so my question, as you mentioned, the serial entrepreneur, looking back now on that, do you feel like it was a bad thing or a good thing? How has it molded and shaped you in your entrepreneur journey now?
This is I told you I was thinking about this before, and what I realized the difference as an entrepreneur, I'm a life coach. That's my business, my vision, and putting in the effort. I mean, the thing about multi-level marketing is there's really you spend every living, breathing being is a possible prospect.
Yes.
That's pretty much what they tell you. If they're breathing, even if they're in the hospital bed, if they're breathing, talk to them. So, and as I really got into it, it's like, and that doesn't make as much money for you as it does the people. And then there's the product sales. And as I really started to understand and why people think it's so unethical because the pyramid, blah, blah. Every organization has a pyramid. A CEO of a company is the top of the pyramid. Quit playing. So, not that, but understanding that every ounce of energy that was spent going outward to promote, to attract, to pitch to people in front of me. And what really made me stop, I was like, as a believer, if I'm not pitching God like that, I don't need to be pitching nothing else. And that's why I stopped.
Mm,
And the contrast is like, this is my business. If I want to put my energy into my vision like that. So it was just creating it was an imbalance because I
yeah.
felt like a little rat running around in the maze trying to get to the cheese doing multi-level marketing. And people who have left, there's a lot of hurt and bitterness. I've been in a company that closed. The vitamins even went to the man's house. And then the thing was gone. I'm like, we had to put socks on in this big mansion down in like Beverly Hills, California,
Right.
where the movie stars are, all of that. And then even most recently, Rodan and Fields had all these people making good money and decided to start selling through the stores and just snatched it out from under them.
Mm,
And I heard women say who had retired their husbands from jobs on Wall Street, just big jobs, Texas company, VPs, whatever, they to maintain that level of like $100,000 a month
mm,
of volume,
yeah.
taking out mortgages on their house. I was like, baby, this stuff ain't real if you got to do all that. We were
Right.
at a conference and I was standing next to these ladies in line getting food. And I was like, oh no, absolutely not. Not doing that. So either it works or it doesn't. Either it's real or it isn't. And to keep going and to keep successful in those, you have to stay constantly, constantly, constantly adding to your team because people fall off.
That's right. Yeah.
And there was even an avenue of like, okay, if my life coaching could do an onboarding, because what I know is, and this is what I talk about is we can't move forward in our success if our little girl doesn't see ourselves in a light that is successful. And if you got blocks, you get stuck. To have
Right.
the initiative to just drive, 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 you're believing something about yourself if you're not comfortable walking up to people. Whatever the things are, there's a whole story going on within you. And when you're just grinding, trying to bring new people onto the team, you don't have time to think care about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't have that issue yourself, and I struggled with it, so I was like, I just can't get out.
So even on your journey of being a serial entrepreneur, you realized there were things that you learned along the way that it wasn't all bad.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you learned a lot. It helped you to be able to develop the business that you have now. Now let's talk about this man.
Man.
Tell
Yes.
us about this gentleman that you were dating that was on the entrepreneur as well. First off, was he an entrepreneur when you met him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
What type of business was he in? Was he in network marketing as well?
No, no, actually, he's still doing and actually blowing up in what he's doing. It was a very early stage of AI.
Really?
Yeah. And he was helping people identify the things that they needed. It was with kids in school, like
Mhm.
you need to learn. And he was also teaching financial literacy through like a community center, especially for children of color. So no, he was definitely ahead of his time. And
Wow.
okay, former drug dealer. So he already had the mindset. No, he was an entrepreneur before he was an entrepreneur, illegitimate. They're entrepreneurs
Right.
big time. And so he was a reformed, but he used that same skill set, that same mindset, that same drive. So
That's
that
all.
was very attractive to me to
Mhm.
see a black man who had the mindset that I had of let's go get it. But
I can see too how it was attractive to you because you have your background in education, so you have a heart and love for the kids.
and
So,
that's where the coming together, especially on his side, because my focus was my coaching business, not I mean, yes, education. That's my heart and what I've done in my career for 15 years, 18 years. And it was but it was in conflict. I was also working at a school that was very difficult. So I
mm,
wanted kind of a break from education. And I was he saw me to come alongside him and you can make this kind of money and da 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 da. And I was like, do my business.
mm, okay.
And that was the rub, and there was like, "Yes, I'm willing to help you, and I'm excited for you and what this is, and I see it, and yeah, I could come into that instead of this." But then my business was fading to black in the background. I like how my hand faded in the background when I showed that because it's exactly what it felt like the expectation was. And it's, when people have a vision, they want you to support their vision with the fervor, the energy, and the passion that they have. And it ain't your vision.
So wait a minute now. You met him. He already had his business. At what point in y'all's relationship was it that he started talking about you joining him and sitting aside your business?
Well, he never acknowledged my business was even let's start with that. There was
Oh
no
my.
setting aside because it's like, this what business? We talk about my stuff. And I was like, so I had to pay attention to that. I was like,
Yeah.
it just don't matter, huh? And when I would bring it up, he would just be like, so immediately, let me go back to your answer, your question. Immediately, he wanted me to come alongside and be in his business because he saw, and it's funny because the way I am really showing up now, people saw in me. People wanted to
Right.
recruit me to multi-level marketing and all that because, and I was thinking, it's like, I want to stand in front of the room and talk. I don't want to go out peddling to every little person that walks
Look
by.
at you.
I
Look at
wanted to
you.
let me be the trainer in the front of the room. I could do that, but you can't get there till you got to a certain level of all the other stuff. And I just was like, that doesn't excite me. And I just got to be honest as I kept grinding and grinding and trying to do it. And even being surrounded by people that were successful and they really tried to nurture me. But my mindset was just, there was a disconnect in who I was and how I saw myself. And as I got clearer and clearer about that, I could see why my business wasn't moving forward. So he saw my business as not thriving because it wasn't. And I get that. I started it during COVID.
Mhm.
And then when I got on a job that just took all my time and energy, I couldn't do my business. And then I met
Yeah.
him. He's like, "Oh, you could come do this." And so it was it wasn't about me. I mean, it wasn't for me. He saw what I could do to move his business forward. And what he's doing now is slightly different, but it's bigger in the AI space. I'm super proud of him. I follow him. I like his stuff and all of that. It just the fact that there was no recognition that I had a business was starting to be an issue for me. But it wasn't even that. That was the bigger issue.
So he had his business, you had your business, you were excited about him and his drive and his visions and things like that. So how were you thinking that you guys would mesh and bring those together? What was your expectation? Considering you both were entrepreneurs with two different types of businesses, what was your expectation about the relationship?
If I had one, so goes back to how I saw
Hmm.
me. I didn't have one. So I was like, "Ooh, go along for the ride." And then all of a sudden, in it, there was my internal voice was saying, "Girl, Where are you in this? What's the considerations being given to you and what you're doing? Does he want to hear about? Does he care about? Does he support you, or he just wants you to support him?
Mm.
And so those were the kind of things, and the intensity of his passion about what he was doing showed up in ways like, "I'm going to get my nails done." You ain't got ti that's not anything for you to comment about.
Hold on. So
It
he
was
said,
not a question. He was, like, upset when I spent I call it my pamper day.
yeah.
It was nails, whatever. And because I was still working on a job that was very emotionally draining in a very hard school setting, it was like, I need this time for me. And the lack of understanding about that. And he was like, "Oh, you just not gonna," and because we'd be up on the phone late at night and talking and working and having these ideas. And because I've come out of the corporate world, I know how to write a proposal and those. So I was really helping with things. And those things for him actually did not come to fruition, but he kept at it and kept grinding after we broke up. And what he's doing today is different, but it's still, it kind of incorporated what he was doing before was like foundational. But he was just completely upset, angry
Mm.
when I wasn't like putting all my time and energy toward a vision that it hadn't come to fruition either.
So with you mentioning vision,
Hmm.
you hear him, the excitement of him talking about his business and what his vision is. Did you ever see anything on paper?
Yeah,
Yeah.
paper website.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it was not totally fledgling and not just ideas. He was trying to get people to invest in the business and that type of thing. So he was proposals, and that was the thing. It was about helping with the proposal side that he wanted my help with, and then to go out and sell it. And who his audience was, I don't remember, but he was saying how much income could be generated like in a day. And yeah, it's just that whole at the time of also wanting to transition out of this job that looked like it was gonna be one thing and became another.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just education. Education is hard, and I had come from being the executive director of an art school
Mm.
and then working for a friend in her school,
Yeah.
and I was a teacher, went back to being a teacher, which I was a math teacher, so I love teaching, still love teaching, but now don't wanna be in the classroom. Then I was like, "Okay, I'll be in the classroom," and then the next year I was in administration. But that was already enough going on for me,
Yeah.
and there was no space for me to, in a relationship, it's like, can I come home and vent? Can I get anything to comfort me in that space? And it was just grind, 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 grind.
I want to go back to the fact that first about expectations. You said you really didn't have any. And
Mm-mm.
I think it's important. That's one of the things, like for me, I had some expectations about relationship,
Mhm.
but there weren't meaningful, deep conversations about what those expectations were for both of us. So
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things, if I could go back and change and do sooner in my dating relationship, I would have did that. I would have taken some time to think about what my expectations are. What do I want my life to look like? And not just the pretty things, but the togetherness and working together,
Mhm.
not just the big vision of being successful, happy, and, all those things, but what it takes to do that. We talked about, if he had anything written down. I think it's so important that if someone is entertaining or dating someone that has visions or goals of being in a relationship with an entrepreneur, that vision is written down. The
Yeah, let
Bible
me see
talks
your
about it.
5-year plan. So this is part of the vetting.
Yeah. Yeah, and have it written down. I think it's so important to have things like that written down to see because everybody has ideas and so many people there take their ideas to the grave.
Right.
They don't have it written down and they don't have a way to get there and they don't have a way to keep themselves on track for getting to that goals. Um, so that's good. He was definitely a step ahead, many steps ahead.
Yes.
But the vision for you guys together, it kind of sound like
Was
it
just
was.
come into my world and do what I do and love what I love. And I as I the work that I do is helping women identify the lies they believed as little girls
Mhm.
that keep them from being what they want to be, what they know they can be, what they were called to be by God. So I was in that stuck place in my own journey toward what I was called to do. So the reason I had no expectations, because I was just glad to have met somebody that seemed like a good guy, and he's a good guy, but emotionally, he was a little bit underdeveloped in how to communicate and how to interact, and so having expectations and thinking highly of myself enough to say this is okay and this is not, or having the confidence in how I said it, or even how I showed up. Maybe I showed up in a way that I was so emotionally needy that he thought he could just tell me anything and I would go along with it. And I had a
So
little
how did you
fight in me
discover?
to say no. Huh?
How did you discover that? Like, what was going on that made you realize, okay, this is something within me that I need to work on because I'm not getting what I need. He's not understanding what I need. How'd you get there? So, we've made it to this point in the episode, and you're still here with us. I truly believe that something was said in this conversation that spoke to you. And because of that, I encourage you to take a few moments to journal about what resonated in your mind and in your heart. Journaling can be such a powerful form of self care and clarity. And I would love to help you with that. Simply send me an email to realtalkswithjanelle@gmail.com and I'll send a journal prompt directly to your inbox. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Uh, Now being away from him,
Oh, so it was
it was
post-relationship
close.
that
It
you
was
had
close
to.
to a degree.
Okay.
The clarity came more so over time as the healing work was being done. But in the relationship, I felt so unseen in the area of this brother really think I'm just supposed to do his stuff only and always. I had papers to grade. I was, a teacher. I was a classroom teacher. And we were up work talking about it. And it was fun and exciting, energetically, that part was good, but when it became just so unreasonable, his response was so unreasonable to everyday things and me wanting to do my own anything,
Mm.
just everyday life stuff, not just not just something against what he was doing, but just be Stacy in my world, in my life. So that's where I was like, I don't think so. And then his response to that was over the top, too intense.
So the first time he kinda gave you that feeling like it wasn't appropriate for you to have your self-care days,
Mhm.
did you react to the first time, or did it take a couple times for you to say, "Wait a minute, here's a trend"?
The first time I was like, "What?"
It only took you one time.
Well, yeah, because again, those times were so precious to me, so they were
Yeah.
not up for discussion in the
Mm,
context again of everything else. I don't know if I said something in myself, I said that right away. To him, I don't know how I think I was like, "Well, I'm gonna do it anyway," So it was battleground kinda thing. It's like,
mm.
"You can say what you want, this is what I do." And I just kept on going. So, so then he was kinda mad and had to get over it, and it was just, I'm not gonna be in a relationship with somebody that's gonna be mad at me for taking care of myself. That's stupid.
Boundaries.
Yes. So there were
Yeah,
boundaries that were created as a result of rather than walking in with the boundaries. That's what I would say today in hindsight.
hold on, say that again?
It was boundaries that were created as a response to something that happened rather than walking in clean and clear with the boundaries.
So, yeah.
Today, my boundaries are clear and I can, and not to sound rigid or I'm going to yield and be in relationship as a relationship develops, but there's just things that I know for me, for my health, for my sanity, for my peace of mind, for just to be in integrity with myself.
Yeah,
There's things I'm going to say. This is what is important to me. This is what I care about. This is what I do. This is how I do it. My spiritual walk. This is who I am. This is how I show up.
right.
Deal with it or don't. I ain't mad at you. I didn't know you, you didn't know me, we can keep going. And no harm, no foul,
Right, right.
you know?
You kept you yeah, you protected who you are, what matters to you so that you didn't lose yourself,
Right,
is
because
what I'm
I've been
hearing.
married and I lost myself, and so that's the training ground. I was like, I lost
Oh.
myself.
Oh, yeah, that's right, you were married before.
Yes.
So this relationship that you're talking about was after you had had some experience.
Right. He's
So
like, "Oh, no, wait, this smells this smells the same." That's why it was not like, they ain't gonna take a whole bunch of these to get for me to get it. Because I was like, "Oh, no, I know what this smells like, it is stank." And I'm not
alright, ladies. So Dr. Stacy, she learned from experience, but some of the stuff that she's talking about, you don't have to learn from experience. Listen to what she's saying because she's been there and she's done that. So listen to the cue, listen to the stories because she's got stories and she's got lessons. Yeah, you realize that this was something that familiar, and this
Yeah.
is something that you had realized you weren't going to accept.
And I
Was this?
never wanted to have to go back and find myself again. After I walked away from that relationship and I described it literally, I was a shell of myself. And not only that, it cost me my kidneys. I mean, so we're talking about, talk about some of the miracles. My kidneys were failing as a result of stress.
You're talking now about the marriage?
After the
Okay.
marriage and within the marriage, my kidneys started failing. And quickly could ascertain that stress will kill you.
Oh, yeah.
Stress attacks autoimmune disease. You know this as a nurse. It's stress
Yeah.
induced. And there's so many diseases attached to stress. And after I had to find myself, I was blessed to get a kidney from a stranger. So I had a kidney transplant
Mm.
13 years after the original diagnosis. So me understanding my stress levels, my boundaries came again as a result of experiencing the thing that was against that.
Wow. Dr. Stacy, that gives me chills. And the
Yeah.
reason it gives me chills is because the fact that you went through that from stress and the joy that you have, the love and the hope that you exude. I like, y'all look at her face. Y'all just look at this smile. You can't go up to this woman and know her story because she doesn't wear it. She doesn't wear it. So that just gives me chills. And I hope that the women that are listening is understanding how important stress management is, setting boundaries is, taking care of yourself is, because stress can lead to health complications, just like what you're describing. Just like what you're describing. So
Yeah.
you got past that. And the gentleman that you were married to, was he an entrepreneur?
No.
The gentleman that was an entrepreneur, have you dated an entrepreneur since him?
No.
Oh,
He really, and I'll be honest, there was a point where I was really afraid of him.
mm,
He got to, and I don't even want to say the comment, but I felt like he made a comment that made me think there was like a possessiveness and a requirement of how I should have of expected loyalty. And again, I think it goes back to that street life. Like I ain't one of your people. And if I don't do what you say, you can't come get me. But I felt like that was a possibility. And so I was like, I'm cool. We met online. And so I was kind of like, I'm cool with all of that right now. The brakes pumped hard, car put in park. It was like, yeah, not doing that because that was just too unsettling. Fortunately, we didn't live anywhere near each other. So it was not like we were going to, I don't think he ever came to my house. I went to
mm.
him somewhere for dinner or something. And he lived in a really nice area and all of this. But yeah, I was like, yeah, no.
So
So
y'all didn't spend a lot of physical time together? In
no,
person time?
no, no. Always working on the business.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So
Okay.
this like it didn't take a long time. So it was not like a really long relationship because I was like, as soon as I saw the signs, and as I look back, as I saw my own signs, and that's why when I talk to women about their little girl on my podcast, the lies that come up, there was something in me that said, this is okay, or I don't see myself in such a way that I would have, I don't know, shown up differently, maybe not have been as attracted to this very strong personality that also was not inclusive or open to relationships are about compromise and coming together, and two strong personalities have to have that middle ground. Where's the neutral space? My non-negotiable is be authentically yourself always.
Mm.
Show up as you because we put on our best nice
Yeah.
sweet girl, you know. Now I
Yeah.
eat. If you can't afford to feed me, don't take me out because I'm gonna eat. I might eat more than you. The imbalance is really he knows what he wants, and all he can see is that in the way of the business. And all I see is I don't have what I want, but I can't really tell you what I want. So that's kind of not
Mm.
fair to expect him to meet
Woo!
me and he don't even know it's there because you don't know how to say it yet. But
Right.
in your heart, I'm not getting what I need. And that's the place of the first honest conversation to have.